Hello, everyone. Welcome to Two Cents Tuesday. Today, 4th of July, is the 50th anniversary of the establishment of the Caribbean Community, CARICOM, and the 147th anniversary of the independence of the United States of America. However, I am sure that if you ask Caribbean people what 4th of July is known for, most will tell you they know today as the date for US independence celebrations and fireworks. The fact is, our gaze in the Caribbean has for a very long time been focused more externally on the United States of America than internally at ourselves. For most children, and it certainly was that way for me when I was a youngster, the vacation they look forward to the most is one that takes them to the United States of America. They have been taught that places like Disney World, SeaWorld, and the Empire State Building are the sites you must visit. Despite the variety of Caribbean countries that surround us, the exquisite beauty of these islands, the warmth and friendliness of their people, the same qualities that cause hordes of tourists from the United States, Canada, the United Kingdom, and Europe to visit our islands every year. We Caribbean people have the United States of America, and to a lesser extent, Canada and the United Kingdom as our destinations of choice for our vacation. We are not taught to look forward to visiting the Bob Marley Museum at 56 Hope Road in Kingston, Jamaica, or Barbados's Harrison's Cave, or the Mayan ruins in Belize. Our own country's majestic Pitors, a UNESCO World Heritage Site, and arguably the landmark that defines the Caribbean, and the Sulphur Springs, our famous world's only drive-in volcano, do not feature as high on the list of must-see places for Caribbean people as some of the less impressive sites in the United States. The point is, we have not been taught to appreciate what we have in the Caribbean, or the rich abundance of natural beauty with which we have been bestowed. So we undervalue it, sometimes desecrate it with litter or grotesque concrete structures, and we sell it or pawn it off to low bidders for their use and enjoyment. This is why it is difficult for CARICOM, the institution, and its foundational premise, regional integration, to resonate in our Caribbean region. We have not yet come to appreciate the Caribbean in which we live. Interestingly, though, we are very fiercely patriotic to the point of being parochial and sometimes even xenophobic towards our Caribbean brothers and sisters. We love to compare ourselves to each other, and our politicians, our leaders, are famous, make that infamous for bigging up their own country at the expense of other Caribbean islands. Just listen to the average budget address of our prime ministers or ministers for finance. They are always comparing the performance of their country to that of neighboring CARICOM countries, and taking comfort in the fact that their economy is doing better than some of the other islands. That is, if better can actually be measured in shallow GDP terms. How often do you hear a Caribbean prime minister compare their country's performance to that of Malta, Singapore, or Taiwan? I do not know about you, but if a prime minister really wants to impress me with how well he or she has been managing the affairs of my country, I want to hear him or her compare our performance to that of the global high achievers, the emerging market economies. The problem is they cannot, because individually we do not have the means to chill with the big boys. For some reason, we have not yet understood that our countries are too small, our economies too fragile, our resource base too limited, and our islands too vulnerable for us to ever be truly viable and sustainable as individual standalone countries. Whatever success we achieve individually will always be fleeting. We are always one US recession, one global or regional health scare, or one major hurricane away from a debilitating socio-economic crisis in any or all our CARICOM countries. So this sovereignty that we cling to, which prevents us from truly embracing regional integration, as is a proverbial house built on sand. That is why CARICOM, the integration movement, is so important. United we will stand and stand tall. Divided we will fall again and again. The only way we can build real resilience is by working together. CARICOM represents 14 votes at the United Nations and in almost every international negotiating theater. How often do we leverage the power of those numbers to get agreements that benefit our region? I remember when I was a minister and I had to attend an international meeting representing my country, St. Lucia. Almost immediately, I got to the venue where the meeting was being held. I'll be told that the head of delegation for some country wished to hold a bilateral meeting with me as St. Lucia's representative in the margins of the conference. The reason for the meeting was usually to lobby for support for that country to sit on the UN Security Council, or to host an upcoming expo, or to serve on some prestigious UN committee. I cannot recall one time during my tenure where, acting as one CARICOM bloc of 14 countries, we did the same. I can even recall a director general of an important and influential international organization lamenting to me when I worked at the OECS that despite his eagerness to assist his Caribbean brothers and sisters, as he referred to us, with projects, because of the important role that we played, the Caribbean played, in getting him elected to the position that he held, he was just not able to engage them to tell him what our region needed from his organization. However, despite its several shortcomings, there are positives that CARICOM has achieved during its 50-year existence. The problem is few people know of these achievements or associate them with CARICOM. The Caribbean Court of Justice, which is slowly replacing the Privy Council as our final court of appeal. The Caribbean Examinations Council, CXC, which has given us a common framework for education and assessment. The Caribbean Disaster Emergency Management Agency, CDEMA, which comes to our rescue every time a natural disaster hits our region. The CARICOM Regional Organization for Standards and Quality, CROSQ, which provides a common framework for standards in the Caribbean. The Caribbean Community Climate Change Center, the 5 Cs, which is managing our response to climate change and helping us to develop climate resilience. The CARICOM Implementation Agency for Crime and Security, impacts, yes, the same impacts that produced the report on Operation Restore Confidence here in St. Lucia. And the Caribbean Development Bank, that multilateral development bank, which provides funding for major economic and social interventions in every country in our region, are all good examples of the benefits of integration and functional cooperation in the Caribbean. CARIFESTA, the regional celebration of arts and creativity, was institutionalized within a newly birthed CARICOM Secretariat soon after its inaugural staging in 1972. And since then, CARICOM has retained oversight of the Caribbean's premier cultural activity. Therefore, the Caribbean community is more than the CARICOM Secretariat that resides in Georgetown, Guyana, and so much more than the pomp and the ceremony that we see and the long speeches that we hear every time a CARICOM heads of government meeting takes place in one of our islands. Which brings me back to the meaning of 4th of July in the minds of Caribbean people. It is no wonder that many of us appear to be fonder of the United States of America than we are of our own Caribbean, when the vast majority of the images we see on our television are from the United States of America. We know everything that is going on in New York and Miami, but very little about life in Grenada or St. Kitts and Nevis. Now, it is true that we can get UETV and a smattering of regional channels in our cable TV lineup, but this is still dwarfed by the number of channels we receive from the United States of America. In this digital communication live streaming era, why can't we have television channels from every Caribbean island included in our cable TV lineup, in addition to the current fare from the United States of America? Additionally, unless traveling from one Caribbean island to another stops being so prohibitive and logistically difficult, 4th of July will continue to be more significant as the birthday of the United States of America than the birthday of CARICOM. Presently, it is cheaper and easier to convene a regional Caribbean meeting in Miami than it is in any Caribbean island. Inter-island transportation of people and cargo is expensive and sometimes impossible. This is an unfortunate and untenable situation which works against Caribbean unity and integration. So I'm actually happy that St. Lucia's government did not declare a public holiday today to mark 4th of July as the 50th anniversary of CARICOM. Why? Because that holiday would have had no meaning, no significance, and no relevance to St. Lucians. We need to appreciate the value and importance of our Caribbeanness and our accomplishments of Caribbean people first, before we can celebrate the birthday of the establishment of an institution that we know very little about, or an integration ideal to which sadly most of us do not aspire. My hope is that we will use this golden anniversary of CARICOM to initiate a reevaluation and a recalibration of our Caribbean identity in St. Lucia and in the other Caribbean islands. When we do that, our sovereignty and our passports will attain a much higher value, and our resilience to economic, social, and environmental threats will increase by leaps and bounds. Happy CARICOM Day. Thank you for viewing, and see you next week. Goodbye.